Welcome to New Teacher Talk, the podcast that's all about empowering early career and aspiring educators like you. Whether your classroom is in a rural area, the suburbs, or the city, we're here to provide guidance and inspiration for your teaching practice. Glad you've joined us today. I'm Dr. Anna.
And I'm Dr. Beth. Today, we are talking about something every teacher faces: keeping our students engaged when motivation starts to wane.
You know, Beth, I was just telling a first-year teacher yesterday that the spring slump is real. What are you seeing with the teachers you mentor?
That's an excellent question, Anna. So many of them are worried that it's something that they are doing wrong. I always try and reassure them that motivation naturally ebbs and flows. The key is having strategies ready when they see those early warning signs.
Exactly. Those blank stares, the heads on the desks. What are your go-to strategies when you notice engagement dropping?
I'm a big believer, Anne, in simply changing the state of the room. If we've been sitting too long, which can happen, we stand. If we've been working independently, we switch to pairs. Sometimes that physical reset is all the students need.
Beth, I love that. I also, when I'm teaching, try to build in what I call small wins when I see motivation dipping. I try to bring in something that students can master quickly before tackling harder stuff.
That is a brilliant suggestion. Students really do need to feel successful, and what you've recommended makes good sense, especially when their confidence is lagging. I always keep what I call a motivation emergency kit at the ready.
Beth, tell me more about that.
Well, that emergency kit has a few high engagement activities that require minimal prep, but they get everybody in the classroom involved. My favorite is expert challenge cards. Those are really cool. The students pick a card with a concept that we've covered. They get to spend 3 minutes becoming the expert using the notes that they have, and then they teach another student. It gets everybody moving and talking in the classroom.
I'm stealing that idea. I have a trove of 3x5 cards. For me, it always comes back to relationships, though. Students work harder for teachers they feel connected to. I make sure to greet everyone at the door, use their names, and check in personally when I notice engagement dropping.
Boy, as teachers, that is so true. That connection is everything. And speaking of connection, I'd like to talk about those crucial one-on-one conversations with consistently disengaged students. We all have students like that. So what's your approach, Anna?
Setting matters so much. So I really make an effort, Beth, never to have these conversations in front of peers or when either of us is frustrated. I invite students to have lunch in my classroom. I like to create that relaxed atmosphere where we can really talk.
I'm really in support of that approach. I've done the same thing. You want to start with curiosity, not judgment, right? And something like, I've noticed you seem less interested lately. I'm wondering what's going on for you. Questions like that are really good conversation starters.
Exactly. And then, this is crucial. Listen more than you talk. To understand anyone else's perspective, that's critical. I've had students share everything from, I'm bored because I already know this material, to serious issues happening at home. And different root causes need different approaches.
I agree. One tool that has been surprisingly effective for me that another teacher told me about is to use a quick interest inventory. When I notice that a student is checking out, I'll have them complete a survey about their interests and learning preferences. Then we explicitly discuss how to connect those to the coursework that we're working on.
That transformation from disinterest to enthusiasm, it's why we teach, isn't it? What about when it's not just one student, but the whole class losing steam.
We've all seen that. We've all experienced that. So for me, that's an indication for a class meeting time. I'll openly acknowledge what I'm seeing. I'm very communicative with the students. Our energy seems low lately. Let's do some problem solving together. Then a simple protocol such as what's working well, what's challenging right now, what's one change that would help you stay engaged.
And do your students really give you helpful feedback on this?
Yes, almost always. I find that being real and honest with them is a great way to open up that conversation. It's a trust thing. Students do appreciate being treated as partners in creating their learning environment. But these conversations also need to include clear expectations. For instance, I've used things such as I've noticed, I'm concerned, let's try framework. I've noticed that you haven't been completing work during class. I'm concerned because these skills build upon each other. Let's try setting some small daily goals and checking in at the end of each class.
Using a framework like that strikes a perfect balance of support without enabling the student to just continue on. It shows that you have their best interests at heart, that you're noticing something about them, and that you care. And another way is to change the classroom setting. And this brings us to one of my favorite things to do in the spring, field trips. It is one of the best engagement tools in our arsenal, but it's also often underutilized. How do you use field trips to make the most of your classroom experience?
What I've learned over the years and what advice I give to early career teachers that I mentor and coach is it's really in the preparation before and the reflection afterward for the students. Before a trip, build anticipation by connecting it to the learning goals that are happening. Also, afterwards, process together. Ask questions such as, what surprised you? How does this connect to what we've been studying?
Oh, yes. And you know, Beth, I just read an interesting article about using the Montessori method to engage students in the preparation for a field trip. And we'll put that link into our show notes.
That's really cool.
And you know, just last week we had put together something about preparation for the day of your field trip. So we'll put that in the show notes too.
That sounds great. Always good, helpful resources, and they're free.
Absolutely. Free is the best. Which brings me to the question, how do we manage field trips if we have limited classroom budgets?
Oh boy, we all have limited budgets. It's just hard to go anywhere these days. Sometimes it's just hard to even leave the building. So I'm a huge fan or a big proponent of creating mini field trips. I've taken students to the school garden to observe plant adaptations, to the cafeteria in our school to interview staff about food waste, even just going to the parking lot for a geometry lesson on measuring angles and distances. What have been your experiences, Anna?
Oh, I've been out to the parking lot with chalk to draw geometric figures. Oh, yeah. Kids love that far more than doing it on paper inside the building. I've also had a lot of experience with virtual experiences. They can be really powerful. You can have a Zoom interview with experts. I've had Zooms with a lot of authors of children's literature. And these Zoom experiences provide a window to the wider world when you can't physically go there.
Very cost effective, absolutely. And however you do it, make sure that there's a connection back to the classroom learning. That's the key. After visiting a local watershed, my students created public service announcements, or PSAs, if you will, about water conservation. The field trip wasn't just a one off, but it was a launching point for deeper investigation that we wanted to do.
And anytime that you can do that kind of experience that just kicks off a unit is really exciting for students. And I find that having students document their experiences and then teach others is particularly effective. Knowing they'll be the experts later heightens their attention during the trip itself. One day we had adult tourists following my third grade class around the exhibit at the Field Museum because they had been prepared and looked at pictures of the artifacts we were going to see. And so then they would stand in front of that artifact and give all the background knowledge about it. It was fascinating.
Oh my goodness, that engagement, what you did, that's really cool. And the students really like the opportunity to interact with their peers, those relationships, the relationships that are built during those shared experiences, as in the case of your field museum example, often translate just to better classroom dynamics. Field trips obviously create natural opportunities for students to see different sides of each other that extend beyond the classroom. And for us as teachers to really see different sides of our students.
That's so true, Beth. Do you have any final advice for new teachers planning their first field trips?
Start small and build from there. My first field trip was just taking my students to the football field to get a sense of how the band would look out there to the people in the stands. That's moving a lot of students to a larger space, focusing on what the learning objectives were rather than just trying to pack in too much. So that would be my best advice. Start small, build from there, stay focused on the objectives, and really streamline the process.
And it's important to involve students in the planning whenever possible. When they help research options or prepare questions, they're more invested in the experience.
I agree. Anna, before we wrap up, do you have any final thoughts on keeping students in the game throughout this school year?
That's a good question, Beth. We have to remember that our own enthusiasm is contagious. When you are genuinely excited about what you're teaching, students pick up on that energy that you give off. Find ways to connect your curriculum to your own personal interests, and don't be afraid to let your passion show.
And don't forget to build a community with other teachers in your building, teachers you know in other school districts, other teachers online through social media. Share what's working. Some of my best motivation strategies came from casual conversations in the staff room, through coffee get togethers with others from a different district, not those formal professional development opportunities.
That is so true, Beth. And to all of our new teacher listeners, keeping students engaged isn't about being perfect or having elaborate plans every day. It's about consistent care, authentic relationships, and a willingness to adjust when something isn't working.
And I would add to that great advice, Anna, be patient with yourself, celebrate the small wins, and keep building your toolkit. That's what we do as teachers. We continue to grow and get better at what we do and add to that toolkit. Your students are lucky to have someone like you who really cares enough to look for ways to keep them motivated. Thanks for joining us for today's episode of New Teacher Talk. Stay engaged by following us on Instagram and Blue Sky at New Teacher Talk for your Tuesday teacher resource and Thursday thoughts. If you found value in today's discussion, be sure to hit the follow button and share with your community. Until next time, we are rooting for you every step of the way.